This is Grandpa talking. And Mr. Goldberg, David Goldberg, has been nice enough to film this so that I can show off a little bit of a collection before I break it up and give it to Joseph and Michael and Anna if she wants it, okay? So what we have here are long guns and a couple handguns, and I'm just going to talk briefly about a few of them. But I wanted you to hear what I have to say about them. And before I separate these, this will be the last time this year that all of these are going to be in one room. So, first of all, I think I will pick a couple small rifles, small caliber rifles, okay? This is a 22. I have two 22s. One for Joseph and his family and one for Michael and his family, okay? These are single shot 22s, bolt action, and this one is from pre-World War II, the one in my right hand. And you can see that the trigger guard is different and everything on it, and stuff like that. And this is what I hope my grandchildren will learn to shoot on, because it's best to start with a long rifle and a small caliber. Anytime you see anybody with a firearm, you want to make sure that it's empty, it's not loaded. So I've just opened the chamber and closed it back, click, that's it. It's now a safe firearm to lay down on the ground. So, good weapons to shoot from. And I think what I'll do, we have in front of us, we've got a couple modern bolt actions, some old-fashioned rifles, muzzleloaders and flintlocks, percussion rifles, and a couple old shotguns that are significant because of their barrels and their age, and then some lever actions, and I think I'll leave the lever actions for last. So we'll start out, my favorite weapon for hunting is this rifle here, and it's a unique caliber, as my friends have pointed out. Remember, we want to make sure everything's safe, so open up the chamber, close it, put the safety on, that's it. This is a Winchester, Remington 264 model caliber, and this has shot several deer and even more elk. And the reason I selected this...
That's a Model 700, is that right?
Model 700,
okay, very good.
Correct. Model 700. Mr. Goldberg's helping me out here because I don't have my glasses on. And it is a Model 700, which is a classic, by the way, a classic. When they refer to Model 700, they're talking about the stock itself and the bolt action. Anyway, the reason I selected this is the caliber 264 Magnum has the flattest trajectory of most calibers rifles for 200 yards. And it's got an old scope on it. It's a Burris scope, and the scope is from the 1940s, and you notice it's kind of dinged up a little bit, but it's a 3x9 scope, and it has served me well. This scope is just about as old as Grandpa is right now. The rifle was handmade for me by Gene Ison Goodwin and Ronald Nolan Sixberry of the Blue Mountain Gun Shop, and I think it was made in 1977, 1 year after my son Joseph was born. So, 264 Winchester Magnum, and this is, if I was going hunting today for deer or elk, even though it's a small bore, this is the rifle I would take with me. So, we'll put that over here by the chair. Thank you very much, David. I've got another bolt action Model 700, but I'm going to leave that right there, and it's on the other side of the lever action. I think we'll start out, come back to the M1 Grand. This was purchased, chambers open. You have to be a little delicate about putting this because it slides forward like so. Okay, now it's safe. The reason this is so significant is, first of all, it's the model of the rifle that the U.S. Army and Marine Corps used in World War II. At that time it was brand new. This is going to go to Joseph because Michael, my son Michael, already has one. Both his rifle and my rifle were made in 1943 in the United States and were shipped to England in January of 1944. The reason it's so precious to me is the history behind it. Both of these rifles were probably, most assuredly, were at D-Day in World War II, June 6th in Normandy, and have survived. We checked out the serial numbers in them, the cartouches on the stock. The stocks, I believe, were made in November of 1943. So this is a very classic. It's a 30-06, and the reason we have this rifle, rifle in the United States Army was the General Douglas MacArthur was in charge of the Army at the time. They were looking for something to replace the Springfield 03, which was the World War I rifle, and he wanted a rifle that had the same caliber. The person who invented this is a Canadian named John Grant. But of all the weapons that are here in this room, this is probably the most precious to me because of the history behind it and the fact that you are now looking absolutely at a rifle that some young soldier probably was holding in June of 1944. So this is older than Grandpa. And we're going to put this back here. And thank you very much. Whoops, and there goes my M1 rifle, my book down. I think what I'll do is we're going to save the flintlocks for second to last. We're going to grab a couple of shotguns here. And this one is ironic because this is a single shot breakdown, and it's a model 94F. It's a Stevens. This is what has been referred to as the depression shotgun. It's a single shot Stevens, and I got this by accident. It had been in a fire, and so I helped reblue it. It's been reconditioned. This is from the 1920s, actually, and there was a time when you could purchase this for $10. That was expensive. Anyway, the stock, you'll notice, looks kind of old-fashioned, and if you were looking closely at this checkering right here, that's what this designation is called, checkering. You'll notice the checkering is not very good. It's shallow and it's uneven, and that's because Grandpa did this stock, and it's the first stock that I ever worked on. It took me forever, and I decided that I was a good carpenter, but I'm not a good gunsmith. But this model, the Stevens shotgun, is a depression shotgun. Most families that lived in the country during the Depression did a lot of hunting for rabbits and squirrels, pheasant, quail, upland bird hunting, ducks, and this is the weapon that they used. It's so old now that I would only shoot light loads. I wouldn't use it at all to shoot because it's loose, and it would ruin the value of the gun if we ended up having it remachined and milled to make it tighter. So basically it's just, again, a history item. It's almost 100 years old. So we'll put that down. And the next one, if Mr. Goldberg can hand that to me. Thank you, sir. If you could see closely, there are fleur-de-lis on the barrel here. This is from the 1890s, and it's a shotgun with a Damascus, what is called a Damascus barrel. And by Damascus barrel, the reason it's referred to that is they would take wire and wrap the wire around a mold, and then they would melt the wire together to make the barrel. And at one time that was considered quite a revolution, an easy way to make barrels for anything. There were Damascus rifle barrels too. It's a percussion with direct firing pins, meaning that the hammers go directly into the firing pin, and the firing pin then goes into the cartridge. And these were solid brass shotgun cartridges that were used. Well, now there we go. It's got double triggers also, left and right triggers. Damascus barrels are not a safe barrel anymore, so you would only use light loads. This also is hand checkered, and you can tell it was done by hand, but it's a much better job than I did. And this shotgun is approximately 110 years old now. So, it's Belgium, by the way. It's got the name Belgium on it, but it doesn't have any serial numbers. That's why we know it was definitely made before World War I, or just before World War I. So this, again, is a historical piece, and it's something just like an old book. It's nice to hold, nice to handle, nice to take a look at, but I don't believe it's safe to shoot without a gunsmith looking at it again. Thank you very much. The last shotgun is the newest one as far as manufacture, and it's a percussion muzzle-loading shotgun. there would be a ramrod right here. I've taken the ramrod out, but this you load on the top, put powder in, patch, balls, another patch, and everything. By the time you're done, the quail and the pheasant are already in the next county. And it's got double triggers also. The reason I keep leather on here is I'm trying to protect the nipples from being damaged by the hammer. And it also, the leather helps absorb some of the moisture that might accrue from there. So I'm going to carefully pull this back and back in there. This was handmade for me, again by Gene Goodwin and Ronald Nolan Sixbury, because I had won a series of shoots, and in honor of, and the reward for winning was first place was a shotgun. And to show that, they also put a small decoration for me with my initials in the shotgun. And this was from sometime in the mid-1970s. I've forgotten exactly what year now, but 78, 79, I was presented with this shotgun. So that's it. These are the 3 shotguns I have. I've had opportunities to get modern shotguns. I just never bothered to take the time to do it. So thank you very much, David. Now, I think what we'll do is we're going to go to something really unique that is the only weapon here that is not mine. And this one, what is it, Model 52?
Yes.
This is referred to as a Model 52, and it's a really strange looking weapon. And this is Michael Patrick's, my son Michael Patrick's weapon. And it was presented to him the Christmas after he won a gold medal at the National Rifle Association's worldwide shoot in Ohio that they have every year in August. And Michael won a gold medal for shooting that year. And his mother had a student who had a grandfather that was a soldier in World War II and had been a sniper. And he had this weapon. It has a definite pre-World War II or World War II scope on it, and I'm not familiar with it, but it's in incredible shape. It also has, if I can show just the top of the barrel, this is called a competition barrel. See how thick it is. That way you can fire highly charged bullets through here, and it doesn't warp the barrel each time the round goes off. So this is Michael's, and this is going back to Michael. And the M1 Grand weighs 9.9 pounds, and this rifle is heavier because of the stock. Also, you'll notice the butt of the stock has got, if I can open it here, opens up, and there's cleaning equipment that goes into the back of the stock. So, and the M1 Grand has that too. Anyway, this is, of course, is going back to Michael. Rather unique. I've never fired this weapon. So we'll put that back down. And I think what we'll do is we'll start off with the lever actions. We'll take a lever action, and I have 4 lever actions. And the first one we're going to try and look at is over here, and this is a Marlin from 1951. These are I have 2 Marlins and 2 Winchesters. Each one, Joseph and Michael are each getting 1 Marlin and 1 Winchester. This one I believe is from 1951, and it's a 30-30. Again, we'll check to make sure it's unloaded. Notice I keep my thumb on the hammer when I pull it so I don't damage the firing pin. But this is going to go to Joseph for sure, my oldest son. And this is a 30-30. And the reason we know the dates is they have serial numbers on them, so we can look them up on the computer these days or in an old Winchester or Marlin book. So this weapon of the 4 lever actions that I have, this is the one that I'm most comfortable with because of the forearm stock. You'll notice how thick it is. Forearm stock's a little thicker, and it just feels better, and it fits Grandpa. Grandpa's not a big man, so it fits me, and I like the elk sight that it's got, the elkhorn sight in the front. So this is probably my most comfortable lever action rifle. I'm going to hand this to Mr. Goldberg. And I have another Winchester and another Marlin here, and these are one from the 1950s and one from 1971, and So they're very good rifles. They're just a little more modern, and they're 30-30s. They're all of these are 30. The three of them are 30-30s. This one is referred to, the rifle that I'm holding now, a lot of people refer to as the milk money gun, Michael's milk money gun. And this is a Winchester Model 94 made in December 1898 / January 1899. And it's a 32 Winchester Special. The barrel says genuine smokeless powder, round barrel, which is unique. And this has quite a story behind it. First of all, it's safe to shoot, and it fires a round that's a little more powerful than the 30-30, the 32 Special. It has quite a kick to it. But what happened was, I used to travel a lot, and I came home one Christmas time, and I saw an ad in the newspaper that said, "Have yourself a cowboy Christmas, cowboy gun for sale." So Michael was a baby at that time. This was Christmas of 1982, and he was born in May of '82. And his mother wanted to quit nursing, was going to quit nursing him and go back to teaching, and she needed a powdered milk called Similac. So she sent me to the store to get the Similac, but on the way to the store I swung by the office of a counselor who was at a Catholic church to see this rifle. And when I got there and he pulled it out, I looked at it, and you can see there's striations on the metal of the rifle, and also on the, if you look closely, on the stock. And this has been in and out of a scabbard often. And I have the scabbard over here for it, the leather scabbard over here. So I wasn't sure if it was safe to shoot or not, but I knew that it was old, and so I wanted it, and he wanted $100 for it. Well, first of all, what I did was I opened it up, and one way you can check barrels and things like that is I put a piece of white paper in the chamber, and I looked down it like this, and the barrel was shiny, and the lands and grooves were perfect, appeared to be perfect to me, even though I wasn't a gunsmith. And so I decided that it was worth taking a shot and purchasing. He wanted $100 for it, and so I still had my suit on, but I didn't carry much money with me, and Michael's mother had given me the checkbook. So I opened up the checkbook, and there was only a little over $100 in our checking account, because Michael's mom did a good job of managing money, and she would put money in the savings account instead of leaving it in the checking account. So I explained to him that I didn't have enough money to pay for it because I needed to buy powdered milk for the baby. So what we did is we compromised. I wrote him a check for $100, and he gave me $5 out of his pocket. And so I walked out with this rifle, and my intention at the time was to put it under the Christmas tree from Santa Claus. But when I got home, Michael's mom saw me in the kitchen, and I was standing there in the kitchen with the rifle in one hand and the baby's milk in another hand. And instead of buying a whole case of Similac, I only bought a can, because all I had was $5. And Michael's mother had the classic line, "You took the baby's milk money and bought another gun." That was a very special Christmas. So this is Michael's rifle. It's the milk money gun. And when he was at the Coast Guard Academy, his rifle team, everybody wanted to hear about the milk money gun. So everything I have here has got a special story behind it. You'll notice the butt plate is original on this, metal butt plate, not plastic, not foam, not fiberglass. So this weapon is 1898 to 1998 to 08. What is it? Make it about 115 years old?
Don't ask me to do math.
I think it's over 100 years old. So someday Alex and his brothers and sisters, I'm sure his dad, my son Michael, their father, will teach him to shoot on the milk money gun. And hopefully Michael won't sell it for milk. Okay, whatever, we're almost finished here. We have some muzzle loading rifles. And I think what I'll do is I'll pick the newest one. This is they're called muzzleloaders because this is the muzzle of the weapon right here, the barrel. And you load it by pouring black powder from a powder horn down. And Mr. Goldberg and I will do a video sometime of this later, a different time. But you pour powder in here first, and then you put a patch, a round piece of cloth or leather, and then you put a ball on top of that and you ram everything down with a ramrod, like this is a ramrod, and you put everything, ram it down like this, pound, make sure that it's pound, bounce it so the ramrod bounces back and it's loaded. And then this is a percussion rifle. So you pull the hammer back and it exposes a nipple, and then you would put a cap on top of here that has liquid nitrate in it. And then when you pull the trigger, and there's only a single trigger on this one, when you pull the trigger, the hammer comes down on the nipple, ignites the cap in here that puts a charge into the chamber. It goes through what's called a touch hole or torch hole, explodes the powder, and the rifle goes off. The ball goes shooting out the barrel with a lot of smoke and everything. When you see movies, I want you to remember that the percussion hammer in operation only came west around 1840. So when they show mountain men that had percussion rifles, sometimes it's not exactly true, because mountain men had flintlock rifles. But this was handmade for me. I have a flint, another lock that'll screw in here. You notice it can change out. But this was the standard size of the rifle that most mountain men used. They weren't the real big ones you see in the movies because they were too expensive. And this is a Lehman, and it's got a brass trigger guard and only one single trigger on it. Okay. So this is a muzzleloader, and we'll put that down, and then I think we'll pick this one. This is the muzzleloaders that I have on the ground here, on the blanket, are rifles. This is a smooth bore, like a shotgun. So there's no lands and grooves inside. It just has a smooth pipe going all the way down. But you notice how fine everything is. The brass front sight on here. It has a large lock. This is called a hammer, flint, frizzen, and pan. When I was talking about powder, the way you load this is, first of course you pour powder down the barrel, then you put a patch on the barrel, patch goes down, then a ball or rocks, whatever you want to shoot out here. Since it's a smooth bore, you can shoot gravel out of here generally. You notice there are rings on here. This was called wedding band rings, and this was made by Montana, Sharon Barrel in Montana, and they only used to make them in June. This was made for your grandfather, me, by the Blue Mountain Gun Shop, and it has a cartouche on the barrel, a stamp on the barrel that shows the Blue Mountain Gun Shop logo, which, by the way, I helped design and put it on hats. This was handmade for me, and I started shooting. This was the kind of weapon that mountain men would trade to an Indian, but not just a regular Indian, because of the wedding bands were so hard to make. This would usually go to someone that was like a chief or a medicine man. They were very rare. And again, you notice it's not a real long weapon. It's smooth. And after you've loaded it, you pour powder in the pan right here, put the frizzen down like this, pull it up to full cock. There's a phrase, don't go off half cock because you're not ready. You notice there's only one single trigger. So that was the average weapon, had one trigger. You pull the trigger, usually a spark comes off, it ignites the powder, powder comes through the touch hole and shoots whatever's in the barrel out of the muzzle of the barrel. So this was custom made for me by Gene Goodwin and Ronald Nolan Sixberry, and I've used this before. I took this bird hunting once with my shotgun, and it took a long time to load, so it's a little awkward. But this is what people used to use all the time. And we'll lay that down. Now I've got two muzzleloaders left, and I'm trying to decide which one. I think we'll take this one, the Hawken rifle. This is a 54 caliber, full stock Hawken, H-A-W-K-E-N. There was a famous gunsmith named Jacob Hawken, and he only made about 300 weapons. There are books on him. I have them back in my study. But the Hawken rifle was the most valuable rifle in the mountains at the time. Half of what Jacob Hawken made went to Europe, to very famous and wealthy people, princes and kings and dukes. It's a muzzleloader, same thing. You notice it's got an octagon barrel, which was standard. Also, the barrel is brown. It isn't blue like the modern rifles, because what they did was they used to brown the barrels, which is a natural rust. It's got tiger maple stock, which is a very exclusive type of wood. And you notice that the way the stock is in the maple, everything flows really nicely, and it looks like a tiger. I don't have a ramrod in here. Front sight. You don't use a rear sight here. I have a screw in here that is used as a rear sight. Again, it's a muzzle loader and flintlock. This is the hammer. We're going to pull it back to full cock. The pan, the frizzen. This is the spring. You can see the touch hole just inside here, just on top of the pan. And you would pour powder in that pan. Put the frizzen down. It's already at full cock. But this is unique because it has two triggers. One of them is called a set trigger, which is the back trigger right here, and that will set the rifle ready to shoot. And the one in front that is a straighter trigger is called the touch trigger. When you pull this hammer back here, I'll be quiet and you can listen to the click. Hear the click? And did you see the set trigger just move just a touch? This is a very heavy weapon, so when you're swinging, instead of holding, mountain men a lot of times, instead of holding dead on a bead, as we would say, holding a bead on a target, they would swing the weapon back and forth in front of the target, and as it was coming back to the target, they would pull the trigger. The reason they did that is your muscles are able to better control where the rifle's going to be shooting if you do that, as opposed to if you just hold it straight on without support. I'm going to touch this with my small finger and watch what happens. Just touch it, and you saw the spark go out. It's obsidian flint, by the way, or obsidian rock in here. So the reason this is so valuable is it was made and it was modeled after the rifles that Jacob Hawken made, the Hawken rifles that he made. And it was modeled after a rifle that he made by for a famous mountain man named Jim Bridger. Bridger was one of two of the most famous mountain men from the period of roughly 1820, rendezvous period, 1824 to 1840, and it took him a year to pay for his Hawken rifle, but it was probably one of the finest weapons at that time ever made. And you'll notice the big difference between the Hawken rifle and the size and the weight of it. This Hawken is about twice the size in my left hand as the rifle I'm holding in my right hand, which is a Lehman. And this was the Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, Rolls-Royce rifle at the time. And mountain men, everyone loved to have one, but there were only 300 made and 150 of them came west at the most. So that's the Hawken rifle, and I think for the last one, we saved the last muzzleloader, the best one, for last. There's a famous frontiersman named Davy Crockett. And David Crockett was from what we call Tennessee now. Actually, he was born in Kentucky, what was then Kentucky. But he was a very famous frontiersman. Excuse me just a moment. He was from east of the Rocky Mountains, and he later was elected to Congress. As a matter of fact, he was such a popular congressman that they were thinking of running him for president against Andrew Jackson, who was also from Tennessee. Crockett had won fame with fighting for Indians with Andy Jackson when he was a general. Anyway, David Crockett, as the history points out, was against some of the congressional bills that came out from the White House. And one of them was called the Indian Bill, where they took land from the Indians and gave it to white men, and they then sent the Indians west on a trek. And Davy Crockett was against that, and because of that, Andrew Jackson and the political party at the time that he belonged to saw to it that David Crockett was defeated by his election in the election of 1835. So during that time period, in the fall of 1835, Davy Crockett was traveling on the eastern seaboard, and he went to the city of Philadelphia. And the Philadelphia City Council, or as it was called then, the legislature, presented him with, we had a short battery break there. Anyway, this was presented to David Crockett by the City of Philadelphia legislature, and he then went back to Congress, and his last speech in Congress before he left to go west to Texas, which was at that time part of Mexico, was gave them a lecture about being fair to other people, and his comments were, in the congressional record, "Y'all can go to hell, I'm going to Texas." And when he went to Texas with some friends, he ended up, and he went there not to fight per se, but he went to homestead property, or land, so that he could farm and ranch again. He took this rifle with him. Now, this is not the rifle, the exact rifle that Davy Crockett had, but it is made exactly like the one that was presented to him. Again, it was made by Gene Isom Goodwin and Ronald Nolan Sixbury in the Blue Mountain Gun Shop, and they had been given permission by the National Rifle Association to copy the rifle that is on display at the Alamo. This is called a Roman nose Pennsylvanian rifle. Okay, it's a muzzle loader, and you'll notice it's much thinner than the Hawken rifle that was used out west. Okay, the eastern woodsmen usually walked a lot, and they had thinner rifles and thinner stocks than and this is about 2/3 the weight. This weighs almost 12 pounds, and this weighs a little over 7 pounds, the rifle in my left hand. It's got an octagon barrel. It's brown again, the rusty brown. Thank you, David. It's very ornate. This was very different, very unique at the time. Most men did not have the money to have ornate weapons. So this, you'll notice this is all hand done and inset inside the stock, okay? And this is referred to as a patch box here. And you've heard me talk about the patches that you put, or piece of cloth that you put. This is the type of material that you use. It's 100% cotton, or they used to use deer skin too that was chewed up, so it was fine and thin. You put this on top of the barrel and ram it down on top of the powder, and then you put the ball. So these patch boxes and all this ornate material, which is made out of copper and brass, was hand cut, and then you had to carve the barrel itself and then stamp it inside and connect it. Oh, that was my cell phone. Sorry, that was my cell phone. Also, this is a piece of silver that was inlet, and you notice the brass plate right here too. All of these, this was so that the barrel didn't wear when you put it up against your face or you leaned it, and they would often, for protection, use the stock as a hammer. So that's what this piece of brass is for. And this piece of silver just showed how valuable the weapon was, that it was inletted with a piece of silver. And a lot of people refer to this as their North Star. So this is 45 caliber, which was the standard at that time. When rifles were made, gunsmiths made bullet molds that fit the barrel, but they tried to make things unique. So this is as close to the caliber as the rifle that Davy Crockett had. Again, it has a hammer, a frizzen, pan. It's on back, and you notice it's got double trigger again. Very unusual at that time. Very valuable piece of work to have a double trigger in there. So you have a set trigger and a touch trigger. I've got the hammer pulled back all the way back. I'm going to set the trigger. Listen. You hear the click, and now with my small finger, small spark came out, and that would fire the rifle just like that. So this is my collection, and it's going to be broken up for my children. I have had lots of fun with it throughout the years of my life, and I hope my grandchildren get a chance to enjoy them too. I collected the firearms for history, not to kill anything. It was just one more thing of history that I could connect with. I love you all. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Lamonica.
And then Western.
Okay, just going to do a pan of your collection of bronzes. Here's Iwo Jima.
Have you read the book Flags of Our Fathers?
Yes.
See, I never loan books out, but I trust you implicitly,
I appreciate that. Very
Anyway,
pretty.
so in 1984, I had left the feds, I had my MBA, we had purchased, that's another one, the Mountain Man. We had purchased, I need to clean my desk up when we do this a different
Everyone's
time.
going to see this desk and how messy it looks.
Oh,
so
here,
we
I'll
have
let
to,
you read.
have to apologize
a
for
good
that.
article, Middle Path of Gun Violence. I laid that out for you.
Here's a nice one.
Yeah, that's why I have, he's pointing to Mount Rainier. When you look straight through past those trees, where the clouds, Mount Rainier is there. Between the right-hand tree in my yard and the clear in that roof, Mount Rainier. You can see the base of it.
What a lovely view. Okay, I'm still moving along the bronzes here.
And there's the map,
Oh yeah, the map
Yellowstone, the Tetons.
by Cole.
1995 by Jim Cole.
Jim Cole. Good job, Jim. Is this pewter?
That's pewter.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
And then
Now this looks like a Ham's beer commercial. I don't mean to demean it, but I think of beer when I see this.
the land of sky blue waters.
Makes me hungry for a brownie.
Well, I have beer in the refrigerator.
Very Western theme over here.
And see, most of these are labeled, like this one is Great Spirit, I think, or Appeal to the Great Spirit. Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's petrified wood.
Oh, right here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that.
I've got some
That's
more
beautiful.
too. And on the right-hand side, where the counting coup is the other thing in the
This
corner,
is
and that's
counting coup.
petrified wood also.
That's a petrified wood.
And yeah, pick them up, they're heavy. They are heavier than snow.
Whoops, sorry. That is heavier than snot.
Oh, that's a key that turns on the fireplace.